Some questions.
Okay.
Where is the microphone in this?
You're live, right here.
Okay, all right. Well, hopefully we'll all get on.
You're
live.
live.
Okay. All right, I'd like to call this special meeting to order. Mr. Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Chair, we do have a quorum, so we are ready to go.
Okay, thank you very much. A couple of thoughts I wanted to share with you before we get going. One is the reason that we called this meeting, and it was specifically to provide a forum where we can discuss the need to bring the rules and regulations by which we all live into the 21st century. As Sea Pines continues to grow and mature, it is essential that our governing documents do the same thing. That there were technologies not known in 1974 when the original Sea Pines covenants were drafted, and they're now readily available to everyone. As we have communicated, covenant modernization is a priority for this board for 2023. We began in January, and I believe we're now ready to take the next step. The survey that we put into the last newsletter showed that 90% of the respondents were in favor of using electronic communication. Amending the 1974 covenants to permit electronic voting and electronic signatures will expand accessibility and encourage greater participation from our members in the decision-making process. The intent of this position that we're going to talk about today and resulting referendum is to grant the community much more flexibility in determining how voting will be conducted. Increased flexibility will lead us to greater efficiency. This does not change or modify any member's right to vote. It is intended to serve as a tool to efficiently and effectively increase stakeholder participation, not only in community affairs, but the referendum process. I would especially like to thank Keith Burns and Carrie DeVillette and Lee Stevens for the enormous number of hours that they have put into this process. And I would also like to acknowledge Steve Birdwell at the resort, who is aware of this effort, this petition, and is comfortable with the concept. Next up, I'm going to ask Keith Burns to talk a little bit about the petition and the process by which we're going to gather the signatures and sign off on them. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Paula. And Kathleen, can you share your screen with this first document of the petition? As that's coming up. That's the log, the other.
Yeah, I have it on
petition.
both.
All right, thank you, very good. You bring it down. All right, very good. So what you have in front of you is a sample of what the petition document will look like. Based on some feedback I received regarding box size in particular, this will change ever so slightly to have less boxes per petition, so that the boxes for name, signature, property address, and email will be a little bit bigger. But the concept is the same. If you look at the top under statement of intent, you'll see exactly what the board has adopted as their intent of this process. And that very broadly is to allow for electronic mail and transmission and voting and signature collection in all different ways. In other words, very simply, if by the covenant stating to something being collected by mail, the intent is the covenant would be changed, the 74 covenants would be changed to allow those signatures and other activities to be done electronically instead. So we put it in plain English as to what our intent would be. What we are also going to do to each of these individual petition documents is to staple or attach by staple the actual legal language that our attorneys are saying will be required to change the 1974 covenants. So that if you have an interest in looking at the exact legal language, that will be available at the time and before one would sign the petition. Kathleen, if you could scroll up then to the petition law, it's right there is great. We're very conscious of the fact that what we need to do is maintain a chain of custody regarding all the various petitions as they are out in the community for signature gathering. So the intent will be is myself as board secretary will be the central point of contact to check out numbered petitions to individual volunteers, be they board members or other Sea Pines community volunteers who wish to help us in the process of gathering signatures to allow for electronic signatures and communication, et cetera. So by getting a hold of myself, a volunteer can check out a petition. I would note that I would like the mobile number only from the standpoint of being able to monitor where you are in the process of gathering signatures and when it will be returned, because we do want to do this as expeditiously as possible. You'll see that in the columns of the number of initial signatures for each of the petitions. I will then undertake a process to in needing to manually compare the signature and property information to a master property owning records document that we will obtain from CSA. And then you'll see after validation of all of the individual signatures on the petition, I will record the number of valid signatures out of the total so that I might get petition number 1, 15 initial signatures, but there only may end up being 12 valid signatures on it because it's a duplicate or that individual is not a property owner as contained in the master list. What will happen then is once we reach a number with sufficient cushion that will equal 10% of participating property owners in Sea Pines, then the signatures will, petitions will be completed, and the Sea Pines POA board then will be informed by myself as secretary that we've reached the 10% participating property owner threshold as contained in the 1974 covenants, and then the board then will take the final step of recommending asking the resort to undertake a petition referendum vote. If that were to occur, if the board were to agree to that, then we will send a letter to the Sea Pines Resort certifying the fact that we have over the 10% threshold for participating property owners and attaching the covenant language that has been circulated via petition for them then to organize and administer such a vote. There's a one-page description of the referendum circularization process that the board has looked at and understood that makes sense to them. There's also a prepared one-page volunteer information form where we answer some FAQs and other information for the volunteer to be able to answer questions when collecting signatures. So at a high level, that's how the process is intended to look and work. And I very much look forward to kicking off the process. We do intend to have a continuously updated section in the Sea Pines POA website that will indicate the dates, times, and locations where we will have volunteers be at a table or some place where, if interested, you as fellow property owners can come and look at the petition and sign it if you would choose. And we intend to have those scattered throughout the Sea Pines community, as well as connected to other events in the Sea Pines community where we know there are going to be a large number of people gathered. As an example, we'll have a table at the third Tuesday presentation on the 18th at our annual meeting, and just a number of other community events like that. If you would like to volunteer to circulate a petition and to gather signatures in your neighborhood or amongst your friends, you're more than welcome to do so, and we would welcome it as a board. And we will set up a email address where you can request a petition be sent to you, and then we will have it delivered to you probably via mail to be able to do so. I think that's the overview. If there's anything I've missed, feel free to jump in and add.
Just, Lori actually noted that the language change is not to replace the mail, but to give electronics as an option that people still
Correct.
could receive referendum by mail
Right.
if they so choose.
As Paula mentioned, and it bears reemphasis, nothing will be removed from the 1974 covenants. There will be no rights eliminated as part of this referendum change if adopted. People who want to have mail ballots and want to do mail voting can continue to do so. What this allows is residents to opt in for a new right to be able to participate electronically.
Really well said.
As a part-time resident, I very much in support of this. And along with a lot of my fellow other part-time residents of Sea Pines, I think it will assist us to be more fully engaged in what's going on in an easier and more efficient way.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Well done. Another thought too is I was gonna check with Margie, see if we couldn't pull together the POA presidents. So it's sort of a push-pull, where we can get a petition out to you, maybe perhaps with the POA president's help, it would be great. Otherwise, we'll pull you in, so to speak, in the locations where we would be collecting signatures. Does that make sense?
Paula, I think it makes sense to people who've been here a long time. The confusion between POA presidents and the Sea Pines POA, I wish you would explain that, because I'm just now figuring it out.
It's the layers.
Yeah, so the individual regime presidents.
Where there are regimes or individual property owners, each one has a president. Not all of Sea Pines has that.
Right.
But where it does exist, there is an ad hoc group of presidents. And they meet from time to time, and Margie Tomczak is the one that facilitates the meetings. Is that enough?
Yeah,
Okay.
POA and POA always confuses me. And
I don't.
I'm supposed to know
blame
what
you.
I'm saying.
So we would work with that. In terms of timetable, the legal language, which we want to put with the petition, is still going under some legal review. We hope to have that completed in a couple of days, and we will take care of that. Once that's done, then the petition will be ready to go, because we want to make sure that the language is attached to it. The email address, if you would like to volunteer to get a petition, would be simply petition@seapinespoa.com. And we anticipate that that would be up and running by Tuesday of next week. Any other thoughts? Have we Are there any questions? We've asked for questions both via newsletter. Oh, speaking of newsletter, once we have the petition complete and we have identified location, Lori Wellenhoff will be sending out a special newsletter with a summary of what you're seeing today and answers to any questions that we get, as well as locations where the petition will be.
I would only ask, since we have the attention of the community, that we explain the next two speaker series event dates, times, and locations. And,
Why don't you?
okay, so we have two more third Tuesday speaker series events. The next one is April 18th, and that is going to take place at the University of South Carolina USC Beaufort campus here in Hilton Head, which is, I don't know the exact address, but it's between CVS and Harris Teeter. Yeah, on a weird street name. What is it again? Land Shark Drive, but you can Google it. And that's at 5 o'clock sharp, and you need to RSVP for that event. Our speaker will be Chuck Scarmanech, who helped write many of the early versions of our covenants, rules, and regulations. So I think it should be a particularly interesting evening. And then our next spring third Tuesday speaker series event is May 16th. And we will be hearing from the executive director of the Coastal Discovery Museum. And he will be telling us all sorts of interesting things about island culture and environment. And that will be back at the Sea Pines Community Center in the Sea Pines Shopping Center at 5 o'clock on May the 16th. Also, we have our annual meeting on the 25th of April at Sea Pines Country Club. And that is a special occasion to celebrate our 50th anniversary as your Sea Pines Property Owner Association, formerly ESPO. And it's limited to 230 people. So check your mail. You should have a proxy there. And an
There was
invitation.
a link in the last newsletter to register. There's an invitation that is enclosed in the proxy, which went to all members of record as of March 24th. I can't wait to celebrate. There's lots of fun things, I think, about our history that we can talk about, as well as some of what's going on right now. My only concern is, particularly like with the third Tuesday events, there are a lot of people that RSVP and then don't come. And since the annual meeting is so important to us and to how we operate, it's important that if you are going to come, if you're going to register, that you come. And if you don't, please tell us, because we will have a waiting list. And we want to make sure that we accommodate everybody. So,
And that's true of the speaker series too.
Yeah.
You need to RSVP, and if you're not coming, you need to un-RSVP. Is that someone RSVPing?
it could be, you just never know. Okay. In the board package, you all saw that there were resolutions that pertain to what we're talking about here. Before I put those up, or we get a motion for them, for further discussion on this, we are painfully aware that this, to our knowledge, has not been done before. We have taken our time because we want to make sure that the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, and that we've answered any questions. Kathleen, have any questions come into info?
There are no questions.
Okay, let me look here real quick. And
Oh, is it worthwhile to just recap the process and what's going on here? Basically, we're in a community that's governed by covenants. That says what you can and what you can't do. And if you want to change any of the covenants, you have to have run a referendum just to change the covenant. Right? And so then you need then the resort has a role in that. So we're petitioning the resort to run a referendum on our behalf or on behalf of property owners to change a covenant to allow for electronic voting. And that's essentially all we're doing. We're not changing anybody's rights. I think you said rights, authorities, privileges, what have you.
No,
It's very focused on the ability to use,
An enhancement.
Modernization.
to use today's technology to do business.
Mhm.
And you can still use snail mail if that's your preferred way to do it.
It also saves our community a ton of money. Mailing's expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we pay for all that, we as the property owners.
So in the end, I think it's important for people to know that we've had a conversation with the resort, who would have to agree that they would like to see the content of the referendum
The resort.
put up.
They have, sorry for interrupting, but you stated it very well, Greg, and there are two ways
You have another comment.
to initiate covenant changes, and one of them, the resort could have done it. We could have approached the resort and said, hey, we would really like to do this, would you be willing to sponsor that? And they could have done that. We as a board, as you know, because we've had the discussions over the last few months, decided that we wanted to do it the second way, which is referendum by petition, where you need 10% of the participating property owners to agree to a covenant change. And then we certify and inform the resort, and then they are obligated to organize and administer a vote of the referendum that's brought to them. However, they do have the right to veto it. So as Paula said fairly early on, for a variety of reasons, we have communicated with them to make sure that they did not have
Any objection?
any objections, good way to put it, Carrie, and they do not. So that then it kind of clears the way for us to go ahead and do this as a process. But this is the first time that a petition by referendum is being done in our community. So it's a little bit of a watershed.
Well,
We are.
and also, to me, it feels much more of the people to do it this way.
Well, and that's why I think, we all agree on that. Any discussion on the language, the resolution? No, there being no discussion, no questions, I'll take a motion. I know I'm doing the discussion.
Should it
before the
be up
motion.
there?
You should read it.
Yeah.
Do you have it to put up? This was also posted on the website and the board package.
Website and board package, yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Let me just share it. Give me just a second.
You're awesome.
Technology is good.
Loving that technology.
That works.
Love what
All right.
can zip through it.
I don't think you're really.
All right. It's one resolution. Do we have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve. I thought that's it.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
You wanna leave it there
The
for a
resolution passes unanimously.
Hey, somebody wants to read it.
Yeah, sure. Let me know when to take it down.
Is there any other business? There being no other business? Any motion to adjourn?
I'll move. adjournment.
All those in favor? Good meeting, good
Well,
Friday.
Thanks for. Thank you.
Good day. Do we have any questions?
Nope.
Yeah, I actually solicited questions before we closed the meeting, but are there any before we close the Zoom?
None.
None, all righty. Fair enough. Enjoy your weekend, enjoy the